Hello, everybody. My name's Philip, and I'm just going to do a quick Q&A. I'm not sure exactly how long it'll last, about the Seventh-day Adventist Church. If you have any questions, please feel welcome to write them in the chat. Okay, I'm just putting a message here. Is it link right? Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, so if you've seen, it's been a while. I've been doing sort of work and traveling around and having to not be at home. So if you can see, that is the right side. There's a kind of interesting chart that I got from eBay. Actually, I spent not a huge amount of money, but probably if I tried to print it out myself, it would have been a lot cheaper, perhaps. But anyway, so that's a chart. So the Adventists originally thought, or the not the Seventh-day Adventists, because that was after 1844 that it was established, but they're kind of the pioneers of the advent of Jesus' return. Thought that Jesus was going to be returning in 1843, and actually they initially, and then they realized maybe they made a mistake, and they then went to 1844, so they printed a chart, and so you can probably see the statue. Sorry, get the direction right. So you can see the statue of Daniel's, the dream in Daniel, and various other symbols, dates, and so on. You probably can't see it there that clearly. I'll probably try and put a link in the chart, link in the chat about the chart, if you want to refer to that also. So that was quite interesting, and I saw there was some information, some summary, and I'll send the link for that as well, about the chart. And it looks like the chart was originally in color, but this is just kind of a cheap photocopy, obviously. So I'll read out a little bit about the chart, just of interest. And this isn't to say that everyone should get the chart or anything like that. You can get it online. It's just some kind of a someone who likes to research a lot, and it seemed quite a sort of fun thing to get. Okay, so I'll read about the chart. So the 1843 chart is maybe 100 or 200 words or something like that, maybe a couple of hundred words. The 1843 chart was created by Charles Fitch and Apollos Hale in 1842, and was used during the Millerite movement to explain the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation. The chart is a wonderful resource for any study or seminar on the books of Daniel and Revelation, for the truths it promoted hundreds of years ago that are still the test of time. And that's from American Heritage Ministries. I'm not sure I was particularly familiar with that one. However, they give a quote from one of Ellen White's most famous books. I'm not sure, maybe it's not most famous, maybe Steps to Christ or something is the most famous, but it's called The Great Controversy. And I'm actually in the middle of reading her 5 Conflict of the Ages books. So this is a quote now from Ellen White about this chart, apparently. So it says the website. So Ellen White wrote the following in The Great Controversy regarding the 1843 chart. As early as 1842, the direction given in his prophecy to write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it, has suggested to Charles Fitch the preparation of a prophetic chart to illustrate the visions of Daniel and Revelation. The publication of this chart was regarded as a fulfillment of the command given by Habakkuk. No one, however, then noticed that an apparent delay in the accomplishment of the vision, a tarrying time, is presented in the same prophecy. After this appointment, this scripture appeared very significant. The vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. The just shall live by faith. And that's page 392 of the Great Controversy. So what I'll do is sorry, make sure I'm not closing the wrong window. So what I'll do is I'll put the link to that after the. I'll put a link to that quote from Ellen White, and also the Heritage website, Adventist Heritage Ministries. So I don't make any claims for that one, but anyway, so it just seemed to have a short summary, and then also it was quoting Ellen White directly. So I thought, and also I just before the live stream, I checked with another website in it, so it wasn't just kind of one website quoting Ellen White. So anyway, you can make up your minds on that, but it's very interesting, and also I'll send a link. I don't know if it's trying to see what I've done with the link maybe. So I'll also send a link either on the same website or another website where the chart, you can actually see the chart yourself. So it's very interesting. So it's useful to remember that the Seventh-day Adventist movement was based on the concept, the belief by William Miller that Jesus was going to return in 1843, and then that was changed finally to 1844 in October. I think it was 22nd of October, 1844. Let me just make sure I'm not misquoting anything. So yes, October 22, 1844. So I was quite sure, but I don't want to give incorrect information on the live stream. So that's quite interesting. So now so the early believers, they really, they come to the conclusion, they studied, the prophecies of the Bible, and they thought, okay, Jesus is really coming back. Now, of course, the Bible does say no man knows the day or the hour, but they kind of, somehow reasoned in their mind that literally Jesus was coming back in 1844, and finally, 22nd of October. And as you can imagine, if you really believed, so you could sort of maybe think about, getting married or something. If you really believe that on such and such a date you're going to get married, and you're kind of building up, and then you get to the wedding and the bride's not there, you're going to kind of be disappointed. Now, but if you kind of think of something many more times more important, perhaps in terms of literally Jesus returning to earth, and then you wait for the day and the time, and then Jesus doesn't come, that's, you can understand maybe, if someone's going to be disappointed if their husband or wife doesn't turn up to the wedding, then you can understand that they would be extremely disappointed. So it was actually called the Great Disappointment of that event. And after that, there were various sort of beliefs, about what had gone wrong. And Ellen White actually was, there were kind of splinter groups or whatever. And Ellen White was one of the people who Ellen White asserted that no, actually it was a correct prophecy. They come to the correct date, October 22nd, 1844. However, Jesus had moved to the most holy place in heaven, beginning the investigative judgment. Anyway, so that's kind of interesting concept, as I said, just kind of the background of Adventism, how it kind of, there was kind of the great expectation, kind of the quote unquote marriage, then the great disappointment, then the and then Ellen White started her prophetic ministry and so on, and that kind of rallied the troops, as it were, and then they sort of built up. It took a cohesive structure, became an established church, and now the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and obviously you can't necessarily read too much into whether a church is growing a lot or not, whether it's right, but it may, of course, indicate that it's the right, a correct one, although it's not necessarily, because Islam is growing very fast, right, isn't it, or something? So does that mean it's right? So, but in any case, if you kind of look at churches, and this is kind of one that's standing out in terms of growing a lot. So it doesn't prove in and of itself that this is the remnant churches that Adventists like to believe, that has that keeps the commandments of God and so on. Anyway, but it's very interesting. Now, I was down in the Newbold College. So Newbold College is the Seventh-day Adventist university in the UK. In fact, I think there's only one. There's various small schools or whatever. Actually, I think Seventh-day Adventists it's not a particularly large amount of people in the UK. I don't know if it's like 20,000 odd or something like that, 20 or 25,000, which is a pretty small amount of people. However, and also even in the world, Seventh-day Adventists are, sort of 20 to 25 million. It's increasing maybe about 1 million a year or something at the moment. However, and that may not seem a lot. However, I think Judaism, I was checking a few weeks or months back or something, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was something like 15 million or something like that. So the Jews are very well known, and actually Adventism is well past Judaism, if my memory serves me correctly. Please let me know if I remember that incorrectly. So anyway, assuming that's correct, then although 20 million may not seem a lot, but if it's continuously growing and it's kind of outpacing now Judaism by quite a way, then you could maybe see that where or you could wonder how this church is going to develop. This church which is kind of going against the flow, where a lot of other churches are decreasing. You look at the sadly the Anglican Church in the UK, where I'm from, is decreasing a lot, so you can kind of maybe think that this church is going places, and again, that doesn't mean just because it's getting members that it's the right church or anything like that, but it could indicate it, right? So you can maybe say, okay, it's increasing a lot, so maybe this indicates that this church is going places. Anyway, so I was down in the in Newbold College, and actually the library is now accessible to the public. You'll need to kind of go through the protocols and buy membership or whatever, but it's only, I think, £50 a year or something like that. I'm studying work actually at Newbold College, so as a English teacher, at least temporarily, or perhaps only temporarily, depending on how long the work's going to be going for. And in any case, so I'll be able to access it, but when I'm not working there, or for anyone else who's not a student there or something like that, or working there, then you can just get membership there. It's £15 a year, I think, and then £20 for 3 months or something like that. I've actually been going there on and off since I think about 2019 or something like that. Maybe I went in the late summer or approximately of 2019, I think. So we're nearly going there for about 5 years now, or thereabouts. And yeah, very good. They have a nice display there. So yeah, and they have a huge other library there. So if you're interested in that, very friendly professional staff there, and excellently organized, and immaculately clean, So a great place to be, and you can go there. And even actually, if you go after September, there's kind of, you can have like you can pay probably you may just double check, but they have a great canteen nearby, and you can probably you may well be able to access that more than likely if you're going to the library. So you could just check about that when you're paying for membership, and quite cheap food and very, very high quality food. So it's a really great place to be. Anyway, so sorry for going a bit of a ramble there. So I was down in the Newbold Library, and I came across they have a display there. It's very, very freshly run, and they had a display there which is very interesting. And there was just recently a symposium, or a few months back, or a couple of months back, Adventist symposium. So I don't know if you've better see anything on my screen there. You can just maybe get very brief gist. If I just come there, you can see some text anyway. I won't kind of, and that's probably somewhere online. But so as I was saying, the William Miller and co, they thought that Jesus was literally going to return back on 27th of October 1844. So anyway. So, and now they kind of made periodicals, and so I'm going to various literature, whatever. Now, the periodical I'm going to refer to is called the Adventist Herald, And it says here, the Adventist Herald and Signs of the Times Reporter. Now, what I might actually do is put a photo of that in the community chat tab, so you can just see the image there. And I'm just going to zoom in here. So now the title of it says is, "Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him." So obviously this is referring to Jesus. Now you can just imagine the expectation here. They think, I mean, there's one thing as Christians saying, yada 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 yada, Jesus is returning. Yeah, that's what the Bible says. Whenever that's going to be, the next 1,000 years, 50 years, 100 years, who knows? It's going to happen, but it could be centuries away, kind of thing. But they literally believe that Jesus is returning in 1844, and so people kind of selling their homes or opening their shops and saying, take what you want, giving away their items, their goods, their farm animals, or whatever, whatever. I was listening to one story recently. So I'll read what it says. So, okay, here we go. So, the Adventist Herald and Signs of the Times Reporter, behold, this is another title, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. And it says here, volume, my Latin numbers are not very good. So volume 8, number 11, Boston, obviously in America, Wednesday, October 16th, 1844. Now, if you remember, or if you're not familiar with the number, the date, so it's 27th of October, 1844. Jesus is meant to be coming back, and this is dated 16th of October, 1844. And so I'll read what it says. So now some labels are covering it, whatever, but so the Advent Herald. As the date of the present number of the Herald is our last day of publication before the 10th day of the 7th month, we shall make no provision for issuing a paper for the following week. Why didn't they want to issue a paper for the following week? Because I thought Jesus would come back and they'd be, in heaven or whatever. So, and it continues. And as we are shut up to this faith by the sounding this cry at midnight, during the tarrying the vision, when we had all slumbered and slept, and at the very point when all the periods according to our chronology and date of their commencement terminate, we feel called upon to suspend our labors and await the rest. So there's also a verse in the Bible, well done, good and faithful servant, approximately, to paraphrase it, or maybe exactly, I'm not sure. So on earth, we're told to take up our cross, work. There's the opposition from the devil and his minions, angels, whatever. And we're meant to go forth into the vineyard, preaching the gospel about Jesus' soon return. I'll continue. Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him, ye meaning you, go ye out to meet him, is the cry that is being sounded in our ears. And may we all, with our lamps trimmed and burning, be prepared for his glorious appearing. So, there's a parable of the 10 virgins, who some of whom had oil in their lamps. Obviously there's no electricity back then, thousands of years ago, and some who didn't, and then those who went away to get oil or whatever missed the bridegroom coming. So, so it's very. You can imagine the expectation. They're saying this is it. This is it. People are kind of, trying to get some amazing experience of life. I don't know, such as, climb Mount Everest or climbing all the largest peaks in the world, 7 peaks in the world or whatever it is, or going to the wonders of the world like the pyramids in Egypt or whatever. Now, they'd said, forget all that. This is the greatest event, that could possibly happen in our lives. Jesus is returning. This is the greatest thing we're ever going to see. And again, as I was saying at the beginning, you can understand why they would be incredibly disappointed. They're building an expectation. Jesus is coming, and then he doesn't come. So anyway, so sorry if I'm kind of going on a little bit too much about that, but if you were really there and you really thought, okay, you just sold your house and why would you sell your house? Or you opened your shop, your clothes shop, and say, take everything you want. I'm going to destroy my business. I'm not going to need it tomorrow, kind of thing, or next week. Because why? Because I'll be in heaven. And they really, really believe it. So the start of the Seventh Adventist Church was based on. In fact, that didn't come till some years later. It was actually officially established. But basically, this was, Ellen White was involved in this. Her husband James White was involved with it. Joseph Bates, William Miller, so all these kind of either non-Adventists, people who didn't become Seventh Adventists, or people who went on to actually found the Seventh Adventist Church, like Ellen White and James White and so on. There was the greatest disappointment that they could have. They were kind of crying or whatever. Now, there's kind of a similar thing that happened in the Bible. So you may think, well, that's just a terrible way to start a religion. There's great disappointment. They got that wrong. Although, was it Hiram Edson had kind of a revelation that actually no, it was right, but it wasn't coming to Jesus. Wasn't coming to the earth. He was going to into the most holy place in heaven. There's actually kind of a 1-minute short video about that on my YouTube channel. Also, if you want to check out the Sanctuary, if I'm not mistaken, maybe some months back. And so you may think, okay, that just proves that Seventh Adventist Church, look how it started. These guys are ridiculous. They can't. They're clowns or whatever. They can't even get the date when the event and the date Jesus came back right. Although they're kind of saying, oh, this and that. Now, and you may say, okay, that proves that Seventh-day Adventists have no idea what they're doing. So, however, I'm not, if you come to that conclusion, that's fine. However, what I point out is that there was a similar event that happened nearly 2,000 years ago, i.e., Jesus dying on the cross. And most of his, so his for his disciples, I'm not sure if any of them actually got it right, but most of them thought, that Jesus been saying, kind of like, I'm going to resurrect or whatever, or inferring to whatever. And then, if I'm correct, many people didn't believe it. They didn't understand it. They were disappointed. And now you can imagine in 1844, they were very disappointed. They thought, this is just the worst of the worst. However, which is worse, actually? People thinking Jesus was coming back, and then they're saying, oh no, we got the date right, but the event wrong. Jesus going to the most holy place in the sanctuary in heaven, which was symbolized on earth originally. Or Jesus literally walking around on earth, and they're saying, oh, this is fine. This is the desire of ages. This is the fulfillment of the sacrificial system, the fulfillment of prophecy. Here he is. He's gonna be our king, kind of thing. And then, oops, he's dead. And oh, he's in the grave. How did he let himself be killed if he's really of God? And then more to the point, he's stuck in the grave. So that's it. So, hey guys, we got it wrong. You heard of doubting Thomas or whatever. So you may think, oh, the Adventists, they got it wrong. They have no clue what they're doing, whatever. And look at how disappointed they were. Clearly, this is the wrong religion. However, which is more disappointing? And the Adventists would say, no, they got the right day, but the wrong event. Jesus going to the most holy place in heaven to begin the investigative judgment or whatever. Or the disciples of Jesus thinking that Jesus was the Son of God, and then he was dead. So it's like, oh, we got it wrong. We've kind of absolutely destroyed our livelihoods, our reputations, whatever, and it's for nothing. So there's kind of a similarity there. And now, in between, having not met Jesus, and although Ellen White claims in vision to have met him, but I think her first vision, from mistaken, was after Grace's appointment. So in terms of disappointments. Not having met Jesus and then him not coming, that's obviously a huge disappointment. They've kind of ruined their reputations because they had a lot of opposition or whatever. Or and then Jesus didn't come back and they look stupid or whatever. However, the disciples were a very similar situation. Perhaps I'm not sure I've really read that too much before or something, but thinking about it now, they're very, very similar situations. So essentially they're saying, hey, this is God on earth, this is the Messiah, we found him, he's going to be our king. And then he dies, and then they're like, and then he's in the grave, and they're like, you can imagine the disappointment, plus they're kind of running for their lives, persecution, the Jews were not kind of the best buddies or whatever. And and then was it Peter denied Jesus three times or whatever. So, or when the cock crowed 3 times or whatever. So you can imagine the disappointment then, and they kind of, now with Seventh Adventists, it was a bit dangerous, but I'm not aware that anyone was actually killed, proclaiming the Seventh Adventist message, up to 1844. It may or may not happen, I don't know. But definitely the Christians were, in hot water kind of thing at that time. And so you can see the parallel of the disciples of Jesus just devastated. Now, who had the bigger disappointment? And you could say, well, they're so, how come they couldn't see what Jesus was plainly saying, how he's going to be resurrected or whatever? But who had the greatest disappointment, the Adventists or the disciples? Now, probably both hugely, of course, but potentially the disciples, right? Because they were literally walking around with Jesus and they really believed it, and the Adventists are kind of going by faith or whatever. And, certainly both groups suffered a lot for their cause. So what I'd say is the disciples probably didn't suffer less disappointment than the people expected Jesus to come back on 22nd of October, 1844. So if the disciples weren't completely stupid, they were kind of maybe misguided, they didn't understand the event, then that's parallels very closely what happened with the Adventists. Like both events, I would argue, as Seventh Adventists would argue, were correct. It was just the categorization of the event that was incorrect. So in one, they thought Jesus was literally going to return, and in the other, they didn't expect Jesus to die or whatever, and they thought, okay, that's it. However, both cases, I'd argue, they then had a reform of the situation. So the Adventists, they kind of started having prophetic visions through Ellen White, saying, no, you guys, it was the right date, the wrong event. The event was that Jesus was going to the most holy place, not literally coming to, is cleansing in the most holy place, not cleansing on earth. You just misinterpreted the Bible, scripture, easy to do. And then the disciples, then they met Jesus, and then they, was it 5,000 or whatever, saw him, was it at one time or whatever, and then they saw Jesus ascending to heaven. And then for Adventists, we believe that Ellen White had a prophetic vision, and then she was seeing, the belief of Jesus going to the most holy place was correct. So now, obviously, disciples will literally see Jesus. Now we have to kind of go on faith, with Ellen White's visions or whatever, not literally seeing, secondhand, not firsthand, kind of as it were, personally seeing it. Although we could read the writings and see the first-hand witnesses or whatever, kind of the manifestations, such as she wasn't breathing in vision and supernatural strength or whatever. So it's kind of an interesting parallel. And I hadn't actually thought necessarily to talk about that, but it kind of just came to my mind. So I did pray sort of about this, obviously, before I started, and so it's kind of a nice parallel that's come up there. Another thing, I've got lots and lots of books here, but another thing that I've been reading, or read maybe a couple of months ago, was From Sabbath to Sunday. And this is by Carlyle, Carlyle, B. Haynes, Haynes. And this kind of has lots and lots of useful quotes about, the Sabbath, how does it change, what is its significance, or whatever. So if you're interested in learning more, I recommend it. It only costs about, in fact, I got it secondhand from Newbold Library, so it was only like £2 or whatever. but I think you can also get it online, depending on the place you get it from, maybe £5 to £10 inclusive of postage. So it's not a huge expense, and it's a pretty interesting book. I do actually have a spare copy. So if anyone was in the vicinity of Newbold College and actually wanted the copy, please let me know. In fact, I got 2 spare copies, and then someone else had asked one, and I just kind of picked it up very cheaply, £1 or £2 or whatever it was from Newbold Library secondhand, just to kind of distribute. So, and I think they may even have another one there as well at the moment. So, anyway, so I recommend that book. So, if you're interested in learning more about why Adventists believe that we should go to church on Saturday, of course, Jesus was Jewish, and as we know, all the Jews go to church on, or to the synagogue Friday evening to Saturday evening. So we're just continuing basically what the Bible said, rather than changing to a different day. Not to judge anyone. I used to go to Baptist church. I used to go to church on Sunday. It never occurred to me that maybe the church, well, it did occur to me as I had a kind of revelation or realization when I was 13 or something, 12 or 13, that Saturday was a holy day. But but if that hadn't happened, and I didn't pay too much attention to it, being quite young, but if that had happened, I probably wouldn't have thought about it at all. So, also I'm biologically Jewish, so it was slightly on the radar. I found out, but that was in my 20s. So I hope that's of interest. So, if that's please feel welcome to write any comments, any questions, or whatever, and. For myself, I've completed an MA in theology, and I'm currently doing a PhD in theology. However, the more I learn, the more I realize the less I know, kind of thing, in terms of what there is to know. So I'm definitely a student as much as anyone else, and but it's very interesting being a student, of Adventist theology, very interesting topic, and the Bible. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, and I wish you all a blessed day.